Hi, good morning, all. I hope everyone is doing well. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. This webinar is about how to improve reading skills in your child. This is Ravali, a part of team here at Turito, and here we go with our today's speaker, Dr. Poonam Singh and Ms. Priyanka from Student Counselor Department. Before getting into the specific, let me give a brief about our organization. I hope you all are aware about Turito. It is an edtech platform, and the mission of launching Turito is to provide quality education to every student through well-experienced faculty across the globe. Now, Turito is currently available in Singapore, Middle East, India, UK, Canada, USA, and Australia regions. Turito exclusives are interacting learning methods, guidance and motivations by well-experienced faculty, doubt clarification and concept clearance sessions when a student requires, parent have access to track and know their child's progress, weekly and monthly assessment and worksheets to make their concepts stronger. And coming to the webinar, today's topic is how to enhance your child's reading skills. Our speaker, Dr. Poonam Singh, is a star tutor at Turito and passionate about education with 8 years of experience in education industry, who has facilitated students for competitive exams and extemporized spoken English. And through this webinar, she will let us know how and what makes a child improve their reading skills. I request all the parents, students, and everyone to feel free to drop your questions at Q&A section. After completion of the topic, we have Q&A session. We shall be answering all the queries during the Q&A session. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Ravali ma'am, and the entire team to again provide me such an eminent platform where I could actually have a word with the parents and let them understand what are the areas and what are the loopholes that we have in terms of education when it comes to English, to be specific. So in English skills, when we come up to it, we have always focused on 4 different areas, that is listening, writing, reading, and grammar. So most importantly nowadays, the important focus goes on reading and writing, which actually not only required in English in terms of just public speaking, it also requires in your academic to make it more improvised and all. So why reading is important now when it comes to this aspect, it is as important as any other learning skill. Learning has multiple benefits attached to the exercise. Reading is important because it makes you more empathetic, knowledgeable, and stimulates your imagination. It actually gives the boost to your imagination when it comes to reading. A study conducted by the University of Sussex that said it reduces stress level by 68%. So it's not just a habit that we have to develop and that what we want our children to develop in their real life, their day-to-day life, but it's definitely a point. It's something that we want children to get inculcated with. So it helps in reducing tension by and relaxing muscles. So if it is just not academics, it's actually have different benefits too when it comes to grab it into a public speaking, into any kind of thing. We always face a challenge like why or how do we make our student or our children inclined towards that. So it also help us to be very precisely better. And every one of us know that when we take a book and this that makes us sleep as sound as any other thing could be. So when it comes to importance of reading and polishing our mind, reading requires us to have patience to build a cognitive perspective. This is considered to be a prime brain stimulating activity and to sharpen our minds. Individual engaged reading have a slower memory decline than those who avoid reading in terms of improving memory and build focus. So it's not just reading one book and getting or inferring the meaning of what's written in the text, but it's also have certain other benefits that we are not aware generally. So today in this session, we are going to cover up how reading is taken to be as comprehensive and important aspect in our real life, and then what are the smart tips to improve it. Then how this topic is going to be, or how this reading is going to be made interested in the children, in today's children, because we know we have already inclined towards our digitalization, and this is how a main challenge that we focus and that we get. And then we'll be talking about what is the importance of sharpening reading skills. So Ravali ma'am, you can move on to the next slide. Yeah, so reading skill, as I just shared, that how through the University of Sussex, it has given us the importance of that has been conveyed and surveyed, that how it reduces stress level by 68%. It also let us be healthy and stay better than what we have, the sound health we can get. When it comes to strengthen our reading ability or writing ability, so we have to have a strong vocabulary, and this is where we always find difficulty. Now, when you ask your child to read something, and when he or she has to complete in school, and when he has to write freehand, where this is the place where we find difficulty, and because the children are not aware of that general topic, or what to write and how to write. Now, what words the children should use in that particular perspective. So unless and until children read books, we cannot be able to improvise into our vocabulary and into our writing. So moving on to the next slide, we'll discuss how these things can be made effective. Now, reading as a skill, as we know, it is an ability that pertains to a person's capacity to read, comprehend, interpret, and decode writing, language, and text. Now, how just on this perspective, if I give one example, if I am asking my child to read a book, for example, and he is not interested in that, so why I'm forcing him to read that? It's better if I could talk about him first. What is his interesting area, where whatever his choice is, and then take out any of the book which actually is going off his or her interest, and then ask him to read it once or twice. Now, the most important thing again is to gain knowledge in perspective of reading. It's not which book are you going to choose. It's always better to choose according to the child's interest. And exceptional reading skills can be highly beneficial to assimilate and responding to written communications like emails, messages, letters, and other written texts. Now, if, for example, I'm just taking it as a habit or of my interest, again, I want my child to improve into reading skill and want him to go for more. Now, as we are into digitalization and have everything digital, why instead of having those e-paper books, why cannot I ask my child to read ebooks? That is where I can actually move him into his area. Like, every child in today's world is not going to have something, a hard book. So they always want something that they can access to any other time, any other good time. So this is the time when we also want to change ourselves from the contemporary and stereotypical understanding of how books have to be read. We have to also make us advanced. Using reading skills in the workplace can also be important for ensuring effective writing communication, which can result in less miscommunication or misunderstanding of expectation. Now, what I have read in grammar, in synthetic or in systematic sentences or segmenting sentences, it at times when you read certain books or when you read any article, always you get to see that how different perception has been given by the author. So we always get a different way of saying the same thing, and a person who says the same sentence in a class and the other student is saying in a different and a better way, in a refined way, that actually make impact. And that is where we want our children to learn vocabulary. It's not just saying everything in direct ways, but yes, English is a language where we have to flatter. When we get an opportunity to give our expressions vivid colors. So this is the place, and this is the area, this is the skill which we can strengthen. And yes, reading as a skill can be strengthened and can be sharpened. So moving on to the next slide, we'll see how we are going to use those skills and how it can be made interesting. Now, pick the right books, as I just said with an example into previous slide. Instead of what I want my child to read, if I ask the child his or her opinion on the text of his interest area and then choose a book accordingly. For example, if my child is footballer and he loves Cristiano Ronaldo, instead of asking him to read any other Harry Potter book or Diary of a Wimpy Kid or any other novels, why don't I just ask him to take out any of motivational book written on Ronaldo Cristiano, so that he could be able to see again his life. And it's going to be sort out three purposes together. First, the reading skill. Of course, second, the vocabulary. And third, his interest, which actually is going to be definitely improved once he read one book, then he try to get a few more books on him and like others. So that actually make him also improved in his game. It's not just one academic that you're pushing up him with, but it's both the tasks can be taken up together. Act out the story. Now, this is something which we have to understand. Like the way we communicate with our students, with our children on the bedtime, we try to share a story with them. Why don't we just act the story and make it half, so that children can have always a kind of suspicion, like what's going to happen next, and then hand over a book to them. Like, why don't you find yourself and do let me know in the next lesson or in the next time or the other day. Start with short stories or start with short books that actually will ignite the child's interest into. Choose books about kids' interest. That's what we discussed with the pick the right books and create a reading space. Now, this is something that you have to, it's not only the task that child has to do and we can just impose into. It's something that we also have to work a little at the beginning for the beginners, but not lately. Afterwards, when you after 1 day, 2 days, when you will put up your effort, after a few days you'll see that the child himself is going to have that time for reading, and then he'll be able to show you his interest and will share all of things that he had read. And when it comes to connections, unless and until we create connection, the way I just shared about Cristiano Ronaldo, child has seen that legend watching on the TV and read news over him. He also has a buzz at school about him. So this is something that we can connect book with life. And when a child can get to understand that it's a connection, it's not just a laborious book that he has to read entirely, then he'll be definitely going to have certain interest on it and he will read that. Let your child choose something for himself. Whenever you go anywhere, please make sure that you let him read. Now, when we come to different strategies for enhancement of reading habits, this is again, we have to choose according to academic perspective. Start with your favorite subject. The way child has started taking up the book of his choice, now differentiate and segregate his interest into his academic subject. For example, if he's very interested in space and cosmos, why he has to read English book? At the end, reading is not just about reading English book, to be very specific. But we have to take up this sort of purpose being served by any subject book, not the textual book I'm talking about, but additional book, so that he'll be able to get extra information. And every book that he's going to read, of course, will enhance his reading skill in English, because that books first are the languages English. Start or set aside the time for reading. Certain, like in a very first day, like if it is a beginner, if the child is beginner, we should make him at least read for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then again give him some time. If you are fine, then come back and read that portion again. Instead of reading entire book as a whole at the very first day, ask him to read just 2 pages twice or thrice. That's it. Read thinner books when you start. Do not take notes. Why? Because you have to understand how well are you going to retain. So try to ask the child to change his reading or whatever he has read into a short explanation, a reflection, or a short paragraph. So in this particular perspective, what are we going to do? We'll be able to analyze how child has retained that, how he is going to write also what he has inferred from the book, and of course the vocabulary. So 3 purposes on the very same time are going to be served. Sign up with the Goodreads reading challenges. Why don't we put up some challenges? For example, if you have 2 children, so let's have challenge with them. And when it comes to carry a book around, yes, just try to also you carry your book sometimes. Like, I love reading this book, I want to read this twice, I have read this. That also, children actually what they do, they mimic, they implicit their parents. They try to whatever the parents do, they actually do the same. The way you respond, the way you behave in front of them, exactly the same they learn. So if we really want to inculcate some kind of these habits into them, Why don't we also start a little? It's not that we have to go read on, of course, but yes, that's definitely going to help us in ignite their spark into the same field. Target pages per day, as I've just suggested, like 1, 2, then 3, 4, and then we can make it 12. Like first day, if he has read first 2 pages, then the next day, third, 4, then we, instead of going to the 5, 6, let's bulk it 1, 2, 3, 4. Let him read again. Try to give one book for 1 month, no matter if it is thinner. Instead of giving 10 books in a month, one book in a month is going to give you way amazing results with effective, of course, effective vocabulary. Then comes cut a small portion out of activities and then don't add value to them. And use a visual cue. Like when you're explaining, when you're talking about your stories, and then ask the child to read that certain book on the same perspective, then try to give cues to them and start with a modest target. Yes, you have to be a little lenient on that if you really want your child to be reader. And now, as we were discussing about again the books, it's not supposed to be, of course, always all the time hard books. It has to be ebooks. Now let child be connected with the digital world. We have so amazing ebooks. Now there is also one suggestion that I want to give to my listeners, that ebooks, there are 3D books available on internet. You will be easily able to see them, the effects, the sound that actually going. Just for an example, I give you one suggestion. There is a book called The Boat. Please have a look on that on internet. You'll be able to see that how amazingly the depiction of the book has been given, with the pictures, with the sound, but yes, no animation on the story. Everything written on the book, you can scroll it up and to see it. You will be able to understand the emotions, but with the sound. So this kind of transformation is required these days. And in Turito, this is what we are doing. We are not connecting children to hard books. Of course, that's the main option. But unless and until child can develop an interest, he will never be able to have those 10 books or one book kept in the shelf and open and read it. So always start with a smart move. We have started with some 3D books that actually let the children see the new perspective of the book genres, the reading genres. And it actually has shown so amazing results to all of us. Now, why we are going to learn with Turito, as I've just shared, that child-centered preparation. We are here not going to focus on herd learning. Here we are going to talk about one person, one child, one teacher, one tutor, and one student, and his or her all problems with us. So here we'll be able to focus on child's development, what areas he wants him to improve, and of course that gives you and will let you see the growth to be very precise. Choose mindful over handful learning. Why did I use this word? Like, we have so many platforms around. What do we see there? We have at times recorded lessons. We can see them. Like, my children infer differently the same text, and other children have different. So how can I keep everyone on the same platform, right? So I have to make my child understand anything. For example, in one lesson, if he got 2 points, he understood 2 points, it's mindful, because he'll be able to then reciprocate the same instead of having lots of notes on the same. So we are here progressing on the child's intellectual growth. We are not over focusing over the textual information and completing the curriculum. Of course not. It's all about the child and his development. Here we are able to provide the clear concepts from the ground level. And of course, these are live, interactive, and at times, whenever the parent wants to talk to the tutor, there is a direct connect. So you'll be able to have a word with the parent. So we don't have any hides and loops. We'll be easily able to connect with the parent whenever, or with the tutor whenever we want to see and to hear about the children. Ravili ma'am, you may move on to the next slide. So, and we also make you exam ready. We have here successfully from past 2 years, make the children ready for NAPLAN, OCs, and we target on all the reading concepts that we discussed from the beginning: reading, writing, grammar, and of course, the most important, speaking, because at the end, when it comes to speaking, these 3 things will help us. and we focus on all 4 of them in together. And that is why I always suggest to have Turito classes with us. Thank you so much for listening.
We got some questions from participants, ma'am. Let's take it, ma'am. How can parents help their children improve reading skills at home?
Yeah, I just suggested that why don't we first of all talk to the students or the children, what is their interest area, and then try to take out some books of their interest instead of just pushing them to have a read on any book. Do not force them to read any book. Once they develop reading of their interest, then they will be able to read any book, whatever you suggest, or whatever is there of their curriculum, or if not, any novel. So first of all, the most important part is to ignite that spark, and that is what we need to understand. Choose according to the child's interest.
And next question, ma'am. Any activities, games for kids to improve vocabulary?
Yes, that definitely you can give. For example, you have asked a child to go for 2 pages, and then you can put up a crossword. Also, you can put up at times some antonyms and synonyms for the same. You re-share the story with the student or with the child, and this time wrongly. So when we do some kind of tips and bets, and so children are going to able. Let's for example, if I'm saying something and I'm saying it wrongly, children have tendency to find that error and then come to the the correct word and to correct sentence. This is where we have to put the child into attention. So I think these small activities and games could be made up and start up with.
And the next one, ma'am. My child does not like reading books at all. How to make him develop this habit? He is in 5th grade.
If he is in 5th grade and you want him to develop, first of all, again, I will suggest that please go and ask him or her what field does it like. For example, if she likes Cinderella books, for example, or she likes the story of Cinderella or Harry Potter, why don't we give him a very thick book of the same, having short stories? Instead of giving the entire novel or the other book, start with some generous mood this time. Try to pick up the book and the thinner one, and do not force again. Just ask them to read once, 1 page, and then see whether they'll be able to incorporate. At times, we also can give them a task to compare and contrast what they saw in the movie. It's always been tested and verified. Take your child to a certain movie, or it might have happened the child has already watched that. Pick a book of the same one and ask him or her to compare and contrast, no matter if the child is in grade 2 or 5 or maybe 10. And afterwards, you'll see how well, after reading 1 page or two, he'll be able to see the change. Then definitely that child is going to complete that book with, of course, letting you know that, yes, I did that.
Yeah, ma'am. Next question to Priyanka, ma'am. Priyanka is here from management team. Can you explain about Turito classes and what is the process to join them?
Hi. So after the webinar, the team will contact the parents. They'll call them and they'll schedule the demo session. And once the demo is done, the sales team will contact them and they'll explain them about the program and pricing and all. So once the webinar is over, we'll contact them by calling them, and we'll schedule the demo, and then they can join the classes.
Yeah, thank you, Priyanka. And next question, ma'am. What are the major causes of poor reading skills in children?
Actually, it's not about poor reading in children. It's all about today's generation. Today's generation is not actually the way we had earlier. Like we were, we had, we can say exposed to the books in libraries, and we did not have any other resources available. Now children have. They have everything on internet. Now, when you want children to come out of internet and then ask them to read something which is there, and they find it laborious, you cannot force them. And definitely they are not going to have interest on the same. So it's always better. The way I just suggested one story about the boat, or try to find some 3D book short stories on internet. And it's not just visualization. You'll see the dialogues. You'll see the entire book has been printed on that. The child will read that. So let's move ourselves smartly onto the internet as well. We have so amazing, you could say, opportunities available. try to explore a little on that, and definitely you'll see that child is finding interest, and lately he is a good reader.
Yeah, ma'am. Next question: how to increase child's reading speed?
Reading speed is again like target. Every day target your child into 1 page, 2 page, then collab that, then 3 page, 4 page, collab that, and then because it's a slow process. Igniting any kind of interest in any field is a slow process. Like once the child understands the importance of that process, then only child can move on to take it in a regular basis. So give him good 1 month with some short targets, 1 page, 2 page, then collab, and then 3, 4 collab, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 collab, like that. And ask him not only to read that continuously. Never ask a child to read the book continuously. They can never do that. You should not focus them to read for half an hour or 10 minutes. Oh, sorry, half an hour or an hour. 10 minutes are enough, sufficient at the very first day. Like, okay, just read first and second page and tell me if you find, again, because we are here starting it, so take some stories that the child is already aware of. Pick a book from the same. If you think buying every time a book is very expensive and it's quite difficult, everything is available on digital world. So I think that's a smart move to let the child go for ebooks. We have amazing ample of libraries. You can have those on your desktop. Please ask the student or your child to go ahead of their own personal journals, and then you'll see, yes, that it's gradually improved. After a month, you'll shorten the target to 15 days. Then you don't have to put a target. Child will be himself or herself reading that.
Yeah, ma'am. Next question: suggest areas needed to build early reading skills.
Can you come again, Ravali, for the question?
Suggest areas needed to build early reading skills.
Okay, when it comes to areas in building reading skills at the early time, again, I always start with, instead of going with a comprehensive text or any relative text, go with short stories, thinner books. So as if we have in the entirely in the webinar that we were discussing about how it is to be started with early ages. It's no matter if your child in grade 1 or 2, this strategy that I'm sharing with you is all effective for every age group at the very early ages.
Yeah, ma'am. Next question: what skill is most important for a student learning to read?
What skill? To be very precise, reading and writing is something that actually build all your entire area. Like if the child reads certain books and have a good vocabulary, he will write definitely well. And when the child writes something, of course, he has a confidence on speaking the same. So all these four skills are absolutely connected to each other. So I cannot just give a higher weightage to reading or writing. They all are interconnected. So when we take up the classes here, we let the child understand why reading or this particular writing skill. For example, if I'm asking the child to write a debate, how it is going to be reading as well, how it is going to important in speaking too. So it's not just one area we are focusing, one point, one subject, one topic, we are focusing on all four. English is all about four skills. What you listen, what you read, you reciprocate, you write, and what you reciprocate and write, you speak. So for better public speaking, you have to listen well, you have to read well, you have to reciprocate infer the same into writing and then to speak. So I think I should not say that what is important, but yes, all four should be taken together.
Yeah, ma'am. As of now, we are not getting any questions, ma'am.
Okay.
And we'll be ending the session now, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone, to listening to me. And it was again a good, amazing time spending with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining today's webinar, and thank you so much for explaining about the topic, ma'am, and answering all the questions with patience. And for more queries, please write your queries at care@turito.com. For more info, please visit www.turito.com. And for mindful learning, please join Turito now. Thank you.